So, hi everyone. Today's topic is about pulp. Okay. So, this pulp term is derived from the Latin word which is called as pulpa. Pulpa means animal or plant tissues which are moist and soft. Okay. So, from this Latin word pulpa, we have the term pulp now. Next, this dental pulp can be defined as a richly vascularized and innervated connective tissue of mesodermal origin that is enclosed by dentine with communications to periodontal ligament. So if you observe a tooth like this, okay, we all know that the outer layer is enamel. On the crown, the outer layer is enamel, right? Inside we have dentine. Later we have the pulp. Whereas on the root aspect, the outer one is the cementum. Next we have the dentine. Again we have the pulp. Okay. So now the pulp is enclosed by the dentine. And this pulp has communications with the periodontal ligament. So we'll talk about it. But here the pulp has from the pulp, there are connections. There is apical foramen here, accessory canals. So through these communications, this pulp is contacting the periapical tissues. Okay, so it is richly vascularized. It has lot of blood vessels. Okay, and it is an innervated connective tissue of mesodermal origin. We all understood this. It is enclosed by dentine with connections to the periodontal ligament. Now coming to the anatomy. So pulp occupies the center of each tooth and it consists of soft connective tissue. Isn't it the pulp is present in the center, right? So I'm talking about the single rooted teeth. Okay, so I'm now talking, if you observe a single rooted teeth, if you observe an incisor, you will be able to imagine. So this pulp is occupying the center of each teeth and it is made up of connective tissue. Okay, this pulp is housed in the pulp chamber of the crown and also in the root canal of the root. So this pulp, it is present in the pulp chamber of the crown, it is present in the crown portion also, and it is present in the root canal, that is in the root also. Okay, so we have the pulp in the crown and pulp in the root also. Okay, in the crown, the pulp is called as the coronal pulp. Okay, the pulp that is present in the crown is called as coronal pulp, and the pulp that is present in the root portion is called as radicular pulp. Next, the shape of the pulp resembles the shape of the tooth in which it is housed. So the shape of the pulp will resemble the shape of the tooth in which it is present. That means in single rooted teeth it is different. In depending on the shape of the tooth, it is different. Okay, in multi rooted teeth it is different. So in every tooth, depending on the shape of the pulp is also different. Next, the total volume of all the permanent teeth pulp is 0.38 cc, okay, cubic centimeter. So the total volume permanent teeth pulp is to complete the whole permanent teeth pulp occupies 0.38 cc volume. Okay, whereas single adult human pulp occupies 0.02 cc, and the molar pulps are 3 to 4 times larger than the incisor pulps. Isn't it? In the incisor, the volume is less. Okay, whereas in the molar, it is more. Sorry. Yeah. So in the molars, we have it like this, right? So molars, the volume, molar pulps, the volume is 3 to 4 times less when compared to the incisor pulps. Now let's talk about coronal pulp and the radicular pulp. So coronal pulp is the pulp that is present in the crown portion, right? So crown portion, the pulp is called as the coronal pulp. So it resembles the outer surface of the crown dentine. So it's in young individuals, the coronal pulp will resemble the shape of the outer surface of the crown dentine. So the shape of the dentine, how is the shape of the dentine? Based on that, the shape of the pulp is depending. Okay. And this coronal pulp has 6 surfaces. Okay. Okay. So this coronal pulp is having 6 surfaces. Roof or the occlusal portion. We have the floor, mesial portion, distal portion, and again buccal portion and lingual portion. Okay, then buccal and lingual. So roof, floor, mesial, distal, and again buccal and lingual surfaces. So this coronal pulp is having 6 surfaces. Okay, clear? Next, the pulp horns are present. Okay, so these extensions of the pulp are called as pulp horns. So pulp horns are nothing but the protrusions of the pulp that are extending into the cusp of each crown. So if you observe the molar, you will understand. Okay. So this protrusions, you can say this protrusions of the pulp which are extending into each cusp of the crown are called as pulp horns. So therefore these pulp horns are extending into cusps, right? So depending upon the cuspal number, the number of pulp horns will depend. So the number of pulp horns depends on the cuspal number. Next, in the cervical region the pulp horns will constrict. Okay, so just like here you can see the constriction in the cervical region, right? In the tooth. Okay. So just like how the tooth is constricting at the cervical region, our pulp is also constricting at the cervical region. Okay. Understand? The cervical region of the pulp organs are constricting just like the contour of the crown. Okay. And then here the coronal pulp is now joining the radicular pulp. So coronal pulp, as it is moving towards the root surface, it is constricting at one area, just like how the crown is getting constricted, the pulp organ is also getting constricted. Okay, and then the coronal pulp is joining the radicular pulp. Okay. Now, what happens is there will be continuous deposition of the dentine. So, because of the continuous deposition of the dentine, the pulp becomes smaller with age. Okay. So, if it is like this, okay. So if it is like this, because of the deposition of the dentine on the external surface, this pulp chamber is becoming smaller. Okay. So pulp is becoming smaller because of the continuous deposition of dentine. Where is the dentine? It is peripheral to the dentine the dentine is a superficial layer of pulp, right? It's outer layer of pulp. So because of the continuous deposition of dentine, the pulp is becoming smaller with age. Because of which the coronal pulp is not uniform. Okay. On the floor, it is the deposition of the dentine is faster on the floor when compared to the roof area. Okay, so that is why the coronal pulp is not uniform completely in all the surfaces. In the roof portion, the progression of the deposition of dentine is faster when compared to the floor portion. Okay. Next, we'll talk about radicular dentine. What is radicular dentine? The pulp that is present in the root surface is called as radicular dentine. So pulp present in the root is called as radicular dentine. So this is also called as root pulp. Okay, so now this pulp is extending from the cervical region of the crown to the root apex. Okay, so it is extending from the cervical region to the root apex. This portion is called as root pulp or radicular pulp. Okay, so in the anterior teeth, it is single, whereas in the posterior teeth, it is multiple. We know it, right? So in the anterior teeth, the radicular pulp is single, whereas in the posterior teeth, it is multiple. And remember, this is not always tried. The radicular pulp is not always tried. There are different sizes, different shapes, and number of pulp organs will also differ. Okay, so they are not always straight and they vary in size, shape, and number. And remember an important thing, the radicular pulp, the shape is tubular. The shape of the radicular pulp is tubular. Okay. Next, one important thing here is during the root formation, what will happen is the apical root end in this portion. Okay. So this is the apex. This is the apex. Okay. So during the root formation, the apical portion of the root, the apical end of the root, there is a wide opening. Okay. So this wide opening is limited by epithelial diaphragm. If you can see here. So during the root formation, the apical end of the root, there is a wide opening. This wide opening is limited by epithelial diaphragm. Okay, later, as the growth is taking place, there will be dentin formation from the sides. Okay, so there will be, here you can see this has constricted. This wide opening has now constricted. Okay, so as the growth progresses, more dentine is formed. Okay, therefore, the apical portion will become now narrower. Okay, and then in the apical region also there will be deposition of cementum. Apical cemental deposition will also take place. So because of the dentine deposition and in the apical region, because of the cementum deposition, now the apical end of the root is becoming narrower. So as the growth proceeds, the more amount of dentin is formed, and then because of the apical cemental deposition also, the radicular pulp is becoming narrower. Okay. Next we'll talk about apical foramen. So this is apical foramen. Okay, so this is accessory canal. We'll talk about accessory canal. So what is apical foramen? Okay, so this apical foramen, yeah, in the apical end of the root, there is an opening which is called as apical foramen. Okay, so this apical foramen in the maxillary teeth, it measures about, the average size is about 0.4 mm, whereas in the mandibular teeth, it is 0.3 mm. So this is apical foramen. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, so this apical foramen shape will differ based on the functional influences on the teeth. That means if suppose the tooth is having the pressure from in a horizontal direction, okay, if the tooth is continuously exposed to pressure in the horizontal direction, or if the tooth is tipping mesially. Okay, so if the tooth is tipping mesially, what will happen is the apex of the tooth will tilt in an opposite direction. Okay, so if the tooth is tipped mesially, or if the tooth is migrating mesially, the apex, the apical foramen in particular, is tilting towards the opposite direction. Tooth is tilting mesially, the apical foramen is tilting towards the distal direction. Okay, remember this point. Next is accessory canals. So accessory canals are present. They are present in a side region like this. Okay, so from the radicular pulp, they are extending laterally through the root dentin. Okay, so accessory canals, where are they present? They are leading from the radicular pulp through the dentin laterally. Okay, and they may be seen anywhere along the root. So like this. So they may be seen anywhere along the root surface, but they are arising from the radicular pulp and they are emerging sideways. And these accessory canals, they are most numerous in the apical third of the root. Okay, so here you can see there is a communication to the outer region, that is the periodontal ligament. Okay, so because these accessory canals are now clinically significant in the spread of infection, either from pulp to PDL or vice versa. So either the infection may spread from pulp to the PDL, or from the PDL to the pulp, the infection can spread. So these accessory canals are very important in the spread of infection. Okay. Next, we'll talk about zones of pulp. Very, very important. Okay. So here, if you can see, the pulp core is surrounded by zones. Okay. So the first zone is the odontoblastic zone. Okay, so this is present in the pulp periphery. Okay, so inside, the innermost layer is called as pulp core. Okay, so innermost layer is called as pulp core, wherein there are a lot of blood vessels and nerves. Okay, so this pulp core is the innermost layer. On the periphery, we have the odontoblastic zone. Okay, so this odontoblastic zone, what it will have? It will have odontoblasts. Odontoblasts are nothing but the dentin forming cells. Okay, so odontoblastic zone is harboring odontoblasts. The next zone is the cell-free zone. This cell-free zone is also called as Weil's zone. Okay, cell-free zone is also called as Weil's zone. So what is cell-free zone? The cell-free zone is the space in which the odontoblasts are present here, right? They will move towards the pulp. Okay, so cell-free zone is the space in which the odontoblasts will move pulpward direction. Okay, so next one is the cell-rich zone. Okay, we have the odontoblastic zone. Next is the cell-free zone. Next is the cell-rich zone. The cell-rich zone, so it is having rich amount of cells. What are those cells? It is having rich amount of fibroblasts and undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. We'll discuss about these cells again. Okay, so it has fibroblasts, it has undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. The innermost, we have the pulp core. Okay, so if we talk about layers from the inner aspect, pulp core, cell-rich zone, cell-free zone, and the odontoblastic zone. Okay, so odontoblastic zone is having the odontoblast cells, which are the dentin forming cells. Cell-free zone or the Weil's zone is cell-free. It is acellular. So as I have told you, it is accommodating the odontoblast during the development and function of the tooth. So cell-free zone is a space in which the odontoblasts are moving pulpward, right? So it is accommodating the odontoblast during the development and function of the tooth. Next is cell-rich zone. Cell-rich zone, as I told you, it is rich in fibroblasts and undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. What about pulp core? This pulp core is having predominantly the fibrous tissue, blood vessels and nerves, and also fibroblasts. Okay, these zones are very, very important. You need to remember. One second. Yeah. So here you can see there is odontoblastic zone. Okay, so next to the predentine, we have the odontoblastic zone. So there is dentine, predentine, and next to which we have the odontoblastic zone. We have the cell-free zone, we have the cell-rich zone, and next we have the pulp core with lot of blood vessels and nerves. Now let's talk about intercellular substance. Okay, so this intercellular substance is nothing but it's the substance that is present in between the cells. Okay, so ground substance. Okay, so this intercellular substance is dense and gel-like in nature. So in between the cells, we have some substance which is dense and gel-like in nature. Sometimes it may be in the form of granular form. It may be finely granular, or it may be having more amount of fibers. So this varies in appearance from finely granular to the fibrillar. Okay, next, it has acid mucopolysaccharides. What is the composition of intercellular substance? It has acid mucopolysaccharides and protein polysaccharide compounds. In protein polysaccharide compounds, we have the GAGs, that is the glycosaminoglycans, and we have the proteoglycans. Okay, so we have the GAGs and we have the proteoglycans. Now, what is the function of the ground substance? We all know ground substance is acting as a base onto which all the cells are lying. Okay, so ground substance will act as a base wherein it will give the support to the cells of the pulp. So not only cells of the pulp, ground substance will give support to the cells. If you are talking about the ground substance in the pulp, then it is acting as a support to the cells of the pulp, and it is also, so first one is support. It is also helping in the transport of nutrients. Okay, so it's acting as a transport of nutrients from the blood vessels to the cells, and also it is taking away metabolite from the cells to the blood vessels. Okay, this is the function of the ground substance. In this, we have the acid mucopolysaccharides, we have the protein polysaccharides. In protein polysaccharides, we have the GAGs, that is the glycosaminoglycans, and the proteoglycans. Okay. Now let's talk about fibers that are present in the pulp. So these fibers are the collagen fibers. So these collagen fibers in the pulp are having the, you must have all studied about the structure of collagen. Okay, so in collagen we have the cross striations at 64 nanometer. Just like that, the collagen fibers in the pulp are also having the cross striations at every 64 nanometer. So these are the collagen fibers. Okay, the main type of collagen fiber that is present in the pulp is type 1 collagen fiber. Remember this. The main type of collagen fiber in the pulp is type 1. Type 3 is also present, but type 1 is the main type. So the fiber bundles are more prevalent in the root canals, especially near the apical region. So there are different fiber bundles, out of which more amount of fiber bundles are present in the root canal region, especially in the apical region. We have lots of fibers. Okay, so there are some fine fibers also, which are fine fibers whose range of diameter is 10 to 12 nanometer. These fine fibers, they are seen in the young pulp. Okay, not in the matured pulp. In the young pulp, we have the fine fibers whose diameter is around 10 to 12 nanometers. Okay, so these fibers are called as fibrillin. Remember this. Okay, so the fine fibers that are seen in the young pulp ranging in diameter from 10 to 12 nanometer are called as the fibrillin. Okay, now we'll talk about the cells of the pulp. Okay, so the cells of the pulp include the fibroblasts, odontoblasts, defense cells, undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, and the pulpal stem cells. Okay, so first we'll start with the fibroblasts. One second, I'm not able to change the slide. Yeah. So fibroblasts. They are the most numerous cell type in the pulp. So out of all the cells, fibroblasts are more in number. So what is the function of fibroblasts? So they function in collagen fiber formation throughout the pulp of the life. Another important point is fibroblasts, they have a dual function. fibroblasts, they have a dual function. Okay, so they help in both synthesis as well as degradation. So if you see, suppose if I tell you a term osteoblast, it means these are the cells that will result in formation of bone, right? Osteo means bone, blast means formation, right? And we have osteoclast. Class means degradation. So they help in degradation of bone. Whereas for fibroblasts, we do not have fibroclast term. Okay, so there is no term called fibroclasts. Okay, why? Because the fibroblasts are only having the dual function of synthesis and the degradation. So they are the most numerous cells in the pulp. They function collagen fiber formation throughout the pulp during the life of the tooth. They have a dual function, both synthesis and degradation. They will perform both synthesis and degradation, right? And these have stellate shape, typical stellate shape. Stellate means star shaped. Okay, stellate is nothing but star shape. So they have the typical stellate shape and they have the extensive processes. With these processes, what it will do, it will contact the adjacent cell. Okay, so they have typical stellate shape, that is a star shaped, and they have extensive processes that contact and are joined by intercellular junctions to the process of other fibroblasts. So with their processes, they are joining with the other fibroblasts. Okay, so here you can see these are the fibroblasts. And one more important thing is, this is the electron micrograph picture of fibroblasts. Okay, so the fibroblasts, they have the lot of organelles like endoplasmic reticulum. They have mitochondria. So this is mitochondria. So this is the endoplasmic reticulum. So these fibroblasts, they have lot of organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. They have different other organelles. Okay, so if the fibroblasts are having these organelles, these different organelles, it means that the fibroblast cells are active in collagen production. Okay, so if the fibroblasts are having the different other organelles like mitochondria, rough endoplasmic reticulum, all the other organelles, it means that the cell is active in collagen production. Okay, so as the aging takes place, what will happen? These organelles will reduce. Okay, so in the young pulp, the cells divide and they're active in protein synthesis, whereas in the older pulp, there will be like fewer number of intracellular organelles. The cell is no more active. Okay, so in case of young pulp, we are told that the cells are active in collagen production, whereas in case of old pulp, okay, the cells are no more active. So these cells are rounded or spindle shaped. These cells are rounded and spindle shaped, and as I have told you, intracellular organelles are few. Okay, if the cell is active, then only intracellular organelles are more in number, and they have short processes. Okay, so they do not have long processes, they have the short processes. Such type of cells are called as fibrocytes. Fibrocytes. So fibroblasts are the most numerous cell type in the pulp. They have the dual function of synthesis and degradation. They are star shaped. They have extending processes with which they connect with the other fibroblasts. They have mitochondria. They have endoplasmic reticulum. They have different number of organelles. So if more number of intracellular organelles are present, it means that the cell is active. So it is actively synthesizing collagen. So in young pulp, it is active, whereas in the older pulp, what happens? The activity decreases. In such cases, there will be rounded spindle shaped cells with short processes and fewer intracellular organelles. Such type of cells are called as fibrocytes. Okay, and one more thing is, as the fiber content increases, it means that in the young pulp there will be more amount of cellular elements. In young pulp there will be more amount of cells. If you can see, more amount of cells are present, whereas as the aging takes place, number of fibers increase. Okay, so this is the picture, age changes of this picture. These three pictures depict the age changes of the dental pulp. So as the age progresses, cellular content decreases, fibrous content increases. Okay, next cell type in the pulp is undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. Okay, so these undifferentiated, see here you can see the undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, they are the primary cells in the very young pulp. Okay, so they are seen in young pulp but very few are seen in the pulps after root completion. So in the young pulp, the undifferentiated mesenchymal cells are present. They are not seen after the root completion, or very few amount of cells are seen after the root completion. Okay, so these are polyhedral in shape, and they have peripheral processes, and they have large oval staining nuclei. Actually, these undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, they are larger than fibroblasts. We have seen fibroblasts, right? So these undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, they are larger than the fibroblasts. They have polyhedral shape, they have peripheral processes, and they have large oval staining nuclei. Okay. Next is odontoblasts. Odontoblasts, they are the second most prominent cell in the pulp. So odontoblasts, what do? They are the dentine forming cells. Okay. They are the dentine forming cells. I have shown you a histologic picture, right? They reside adjacent to the predentine. Okay, if I can change the slide. 1 second. Yeah. See, the odontoblastic zone, which is having odontoblast, where is it present? It is present adjacent to the predentine. So this layer is present adjacent to the predentine. Okay. So with the cell bodies in the pulp, cell bodies are present in the pulp, and cell processes are present in the dentinal tubules. So this odontoblastic zone, the odontoblasts are present adjacent to the predentine, okay, towards the dentine. Okay, there is two region, right? It is present in between. These odontoblasts, they are present in between dentine and in between dentine and pulp. In here we have the odontoblasts. Okay, so these odontoblasts, they are having the cell bodies in the pulp, whereas processes are present in the dentinal tubules. Okay, next. So here you can see the odontogenic zone. Here we can see the cell-free zone. Odontoblast. See, here you can see the odontoblast. There is predentine. So residing adjacent to the predentine, we have the odontoblasts. Okay, then we have the cell-free zone, cell-rich zone. Okay, next. So these odontoblasts, they have the constant location adjacent to the predentine in what they are termed as odontogenic zone of the pulp, right? We know this, right? So they are present adjacent to the predentine in the zones of pulp. What is this layer called? It is called as odontogenic zone of the pulp, the first layer, right? And if suppose these odontoblasts are active, then the active cells are elongated. Okay, so if the cell is constantly producing dentine, if it is very much active in the dentine production, then it is elongated. Whereas the resting cell is somewhat stubby. And the active cell will have basally placed nucleus and basophilic cytoplasm, whereas the resting cell will have little cytoplasm but a more hematoxyphilic nucleus. So here we are talking about the differentiation in between the active cells and the resting cells. Okay, so in active cells, the active cells are elongated, the resting cell is stubby. The active cell is having a basally placed nucleus, and the resting cell is having a more amount of nucleus, the hematoxyphilic nucleus. The active cell is having the basophilic cytoplasm, whereas the resting cell is having a little cytoplasm. Okay, so here in this picture, we can see the connection in between this arrow mark. It is showing the connection in between the two adjacent odontoblasts. So there are a lot of junctional complexes that are present in between the cells. Okay, so with these junctional complexes, the two adjacent odontoblasts are contacting each other. Okay, next. So these odontoblasts, they are more cylindrical and longer in case of crown, whereas they are more cuboidal in the middle of the root. Okay, so these odontoblasts, they are cylindrical and longer when they are present in the crown, whereas in the middle of the root they become more cuboid. Okay, so here if you can see, there are high columnar odontoblasts. Okay, so these are seen in the pulp chamber. Okay, whereas if you come to the second picture, we see low columnar odontoblasts. Right, so this is the high columnar odontoblast. If you can see the difference, in the second picture we are seeing the low columnar odontoblast in the root canal. Okay, here you can see they're almost like flat odontoblasts which are seen in the apical region. Okay, so the odontoblasts are differing in the shape in different regions. And now we also have some kind of defense cells in this, include the histiocytes or macrophages. We have the dendritic cells in the pulp. We have the mast cells, plasma cells, PMNs, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes, and we have monocytes. So these are all the defense cells that are present in the pulp. So here you can see the histiocyte. Okay, so here you can notice the histiocyte that is present. So these histiocytes are irregularly shaped cells. Histiocytes are also called as macrophages. Okay, so these, here you can see the macrophage. So these histiocytes are irregularly shaped cells and they have short and blunt processes. Okay, they have short and blunt processes. These macrophages, so these histiocytes are also called as macrophages, right? So what do the macrophages do? They will ingest the foreign materials. So they will eat away the foreign materials. If suppose the macrophages are inactive and they are not in the process of ingesting the foreign materials, they are not actively ingesting the foreign materials. In such cases, we cannot differentiate the macrophages from the fibroblasts. Okay, remember, the macrophage will actively ingest the foreign particles. If suppose the macrophage is inactive, it is not ingesting the foreign materials, then we cannot differentiate the macrophages from the fibroblasts. Okay, whereas in case of pulpal inflammation, these histiocytes or macrophages, they exhibit lot of granules and vacuoles in the cytoplasm. They have lot of granules and vacuoles in the cytoplasm. Okay, and their nuclei also increases in size. Their nuclei is increasing in size. Remember this. Okay, and they have a prominent nucleolus. These 3 points you need to understand. Okay, so this macrophage, it will actively ingest the foreign materials. If it is not ingesting, if it is inactive, we cannot distinguish it from the fibroblast. In case of pulpal inflammation, the macrophage will have lot of granules and vacuoles, increased number of nuclei is seen, and there is a prominent nucleolus. Okay, and the next picture you can see the lymphocytes. Okay, so lymphocytes are present in the normal pulp also. Okay, lymphocytes and eosinophils also, they are seen even in the normal pulp also. But in case of inflammation, what happens? These eosinophils and lymphocytes increase in number. Okay, and the lymphocytes that are present in the pulp are T lymphocytes. The lymphocytes that are present in the pulp are called as T lymphocytes. Okay, and here again we have the plasma cells. Plasma cells are also seen during the inflammation of the pulp. So if you see the plasma cell under light microscope, this plasma cell, the nucleus appears very small. Okay, the nucleus is very small. Next, let's talk about the composition of the dental pulp. So we all know this by now. So there is cellular element, there is extracellular element. So in the cellular, we have different kinds of cells. We learned them, right? The fibroblasts, odontoblasts, undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. We have the defense cells. We learned about this. Pulpal stem cells. Pulpal stem cells are also present. We'll talk about it. And in the fiber content, extracellular, we have two categories, fiber and ground substance. Okay, in the fibers we have learned, right, the collagen fibers are mainly present. This include type 1 collagen and type 3 collagen, and there is also fibrillin. Okay, the fine fibers that are present in the young pulp are called as fibrillin, right? So we have collagen, we have fibrillin, and this also we have studied the ground substance. What is the ground substance doing? It is acting as a support. It is lending the support to the cells of the pulp and also in the transport of nutrients. So what are in the ground substance, what do we have? We have the acid mucopolysaccharides, we have the glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, and glycoproteins. So if you can remember for your theory exam, it is very good if you remember these proteins like chondroitin A, chondroitin B, hyaluronan, laminin, tenacin. If you can remember, you will have good marks in your theory exam. Okay, if you can write the names of those proteins. Now we'll talk about pulpal stem cells. So what are pulpal stem cells? In the pulp, we have lot of stem cells. Okay, so stem cells are reported to be present in the pulp. What do these stem cells do? Stem cells undergo proliferation. They proliferate and they migrate to the site of injured odontoblasts and they help in the formation of dentine. Okay, so stem cells, they are present in the pulp, they undergo proliferation, and where do they migrate? They migrate to the area where there are injured odontoblasts and they will help in the formation of dentine. Okay, so how in stem cells, we have the dental pulp stem cells and the stem cells that are extracted from the human exfoliated deciduous teeth. This is called as shed. Remember this, SHED, shed means stem cells from the exfoliated deciduous teeth. Okay, so these stem cells are present in higher concentration in the coronal pulp than the radicular pulp. So the pulp that is present in the crown is coronal pulp, right? So this coronal pulp is having lot of stem cells when compared to the radicular pulp. And these pulpal stem cells, they are pluripotential. Okay, so they are pluripotential and they are having the capacity for formation of different structures. Okay, they are adipogenic, they are osteogenic. So so in this capacity, okay, the stem cell pluripotential, the pluripotential nature of the pulpal stem cells is exceeding when compared to the bone marrow stem cells. Okay, so they have the capacity to form different kinds of cells. Okay, so it is a stem cell is not pluripotent, means it's an immature cell or it's a stem cell that is giving rise to different cell types. So here you can see chondrogenic means cartilage, blood vessel formation, osteogenic means bone formation, adipogenic fat. So one cell is getting differentiated into different kinds of cells. Okay, so now coming to the blood vessels that are present in the pulp. So let's talk about some points about the blood vessels, lymphatics and nerves. Okay, so the arteries and arterioles are thin walled in case of pulp. Okay, and the pulpal arteries are as big as arterioles. Okay, so this you might not need in detail. I'll just read out some important points. Okay, so the arteries and arterioles that are present in the pulp are thin walled, so they do not branch in the radicular pulp. Okay, and other important point is there are sympathetic nerves that control the blood flow. Pericytes are present in relation to the small arterioles which control the blood flow. So blood flow is controlled by pericytes, which are present adjacent to the small arterioles, and the blood flow is also controlled by the sympathetic nerves. Okay, so there is high capillary pressure that is seen. Veins and venules are also thin walled. So arteries and arterioles are also thin walled. Veins and venules are also thin walled. What about the lymphatics? The lymphatics will follow the course of the blood vessels. Okay. Next, nerves will follow again. Coming to the nerve supply, if we talk about the nerves that are present in the pulp, the nerves are following the course of blood vessels. Okay, so lymphatics are following the course of the blood vessels. Nerves are also following the course of blood vessels. And these nerves also, they have the very little branching that is seen in the radicular pulp. And very important point, there are myelinated nerves that lose the myelin sheath and form a plexus. This plexus is called as plexus of Raschkow. Remember this. So myelinated nerves will have the myelin sheath, right? Because of the presence of myelin sheath only, they are called as myelinated nerves. If there is no myelin sheath, what are they called? Unmyelinated nerves. Okay, so the myelinated nerves are losing the myelin sheath and they are forming a plexus. This is called as plexus of Raschkow. Okay, and there are only free nerve endings in pulp. That is why only pain sensation is felt in the pulp. Okay, so because of the presence of free nerve endings in pulp, there is only pain sensation that is present. Okay, so the A delta fibers will mediate sharp kind of pain and C fibers will mediate dull pain. So whatever it is, only pain sensation is felt in the pulp. So if it is sharp pain, A delta fibers are responsible. If it is dull pain, C fibers are responsible. Okay, now coming to the functions of the pulp. So this is again very important. The functions of the pulp include inductive function, formative function, nutritive, protective, and defensive or reparative. So inductive means it helps in the differentiation of the dental lamina and the dental organ. The pulp is helping in the determination of the tooth morphology. This function of pulp is called as inductive. Formative function. What is it forming? It is helping in the production of dentine. Okay, it is nutritive. So it is helping in the nourishment of the dentine. Okay, it is protective or sensory because it is having lot of immune cells and it has the pain perception capacity, because of which pain is protective, right? Pain is a protective response. So the protective or the sensory response of the pulp includes the presence of lot of immune cells. There are lymphocytes, right? There are lymphocytes, macrophages. So lot of immune cells are present, and the pulp also has a pain perception. Next, it is defensive or reparative. So it will help in the production of reparative dentine. So it is acting. It is also helping in the process of repair. So inductive, formative, nutritive, protective or sensory, and defensive or reparative. We'll end this topic with studying the pulp stones. Okay, so there are three kinds of pulp stones. Okay, so you might have all known this. There are free pulp stones, attached pulp stones and embedded pulp stones. Okay, the pulp stones that are present, that are lying free in the pulp. Okay, this is pulp, right? So here, this is the odontoblastic zone, right? This is the odontoblastic zone. Here, prior to it, we have the predentine. Okay, so the pulp stones that are lying free in the pulp without getting attached to the dentine, they are just free in the pulp. These are called as free pulp stones. What about attached pulp stones? Here you can see the pulp stones that are attached to the dentine are called as attached pulp stones. Okay, now what is embedded pulp stone? The pulp stones, they are completely surrounded in the dentine. So if you can see, the pulp stone that is present in the pulp is called as free pulp stone. Pulp stone attached to dentine is called as attached pulp stone. And the third one is the embedded pulp stone, which is completely embedded or completely surrounded by the dentine. Okay, so what are pulp stones? They are nothing but the calcifications that are seen in the pulp. The calcifications in the pulp are called as pulp stones. Okay, in this also we have again the true pulp stones and the false pulp stones. Okay, so true pulp stones means they resemble dentine, whereas the false pulp stones, they do not resemble dentine. Okay, so the true pulp stones resemble, whereas the false pulp stones do not resemble dentine. Okay, thank you everyone.